gentlemen, how are you doing tonight? Very good, excellent. Thank you for coming. This is our second meeting of the Knowledge Management Institute in 2008, and we're glad to have you here. I get to see some new faces, which is great. We love new faces here, and some of the people as well that come very frequently to our meetings. Tonight we're going to have what we call our KM bus. Our agenda for tonight is, first of all, networking, and I guess you guys have already been talking to each other, ideally exchanging some business cards, phone numbers for future projects, and that's the first part of our meeting. The second part is we're going to explain the dynamics of the meeting. Then we're going to get into the presentations. We have 3 experts tonight, and I'm going to introduce them a little later in the session. They're going to be doing a presentation, and based on the content that they provide us tonight, we're going to be having some table discussions, and you're going to enjoy this very much. At the very end, we'll just have some closing remarks, and then you'll have some other time for networking as well.
And we're going to email you the book suggestions for the next week. Gary? Gary's going to talk for about 10 minutes. I'm going to keep a firm watch on the clock. And when he's done, he's going to leave on the board, or as you see in your pamphlet, some buzz issues, some things that you should be talking about or probably would want to talk about at your table. You're going to have about 20 minutes to do that. At the end of that session, before Angela speaks, we're going to rotate everybody at their tables. Because one of the objectives of the buzz session is that you get to meet new people. So we don't want all 6 people down at that table remaining down at that table. We want you to rotate. So here's what we're going to do. There are 4 tables, and I'm going to start down at that end, and I'm going to have you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And you're going to have a number. And then we say go, and you will go to the other tables, 1, 2, 3, or 4. So you'll meet totally new people. Okay? It's sort of like musical chairs. But you know when you get there, you're going to have a seat, so don't worry about it. So that's the approach we'll take when we do the second round. And we'll do the same thing on the third round. Because Gary's going to speak for a few moments, about 10. And then you're going to have 20 minutes to meet the people at your table. So if a table has 8 or 10 people, we want that to be less than 30 seconds each, because we want to get into the buzz topic. And maybe we'll find out if you don't rush this on the second and third round, we'll just not do the go around the table with the names, because we're quite interested in getting you to start talking about the topic. All right, are we ready to go then? Gary, you ready to go?
Absolutely. We have a good group here today. The premise of what I want to talk about on our table is simple, is that information technology, collaboration software, to be specific, can be a help, but it can also be a hindrance in terms of getting our work done. I worked many years for the USAID in their development programs in knowledge management, and a lamentation I had was, gee, if we only had a common collaboration software platform, wouldn't that make just life a lot easier? Well, I've been either rewarded or condemned. Now I'm a consultant, and I'm working with Microsoft SharePoint and some other applications. So I'm precisely in that situation of working with one specific software platform and seeing to what extent does it really help knowledge management, and to what extent is this overblown. And there are other kind of issues we want to look at first, other than just having a common software platform. What I've started out with here are, what are some of our basic knowledge management objectives? I put down efficiency, agility, creativity, also effectiveness. That's what we're trying to do in having a more sharing, team-oriented environment, is have these kinds of attributes. Specifically, what are we trying to do? A big deal about empowering individuals, empowering teams. Have kind of a plug-and-play aspect where, regardless of where you are in the organization, regardless of how you move, you come in, sit at your desk, and you have the tools, and that's what these IT platforms are, the tools whereby you can share knowledge. Reducing barriers. One of our other speakers here tonight is going to talk about sharing and how to motivate sharing. Harmonizing internal corporate operations. Although this is titled platform, really we're talking about, it could be individual applications. It's not just one silver bullet that will suddenly enable us to share knowledge throughout an organization. It's more like harmonizing a variety, in the real world, a variety of applications. You're not trying to get from 100 applications to one. You're trying to get from maybe 100 to 10 or half a dozen. That's how the real world operates. And if you do have access to a common software sharing platform, you can also do things externally as well as internally. But another of our speakers is going to talk about, I think it's Doug, doing knowledge management on a shoestring with very limited resources. The same thing applies to the business of software platforms. So how does collaboration software help? I've mentioned Microsoft SharePoint. I also work with the State Department with a variant of Wikipedia, very active wiki program, and we also use blogging software. So these, Oracle, Lotus Notes, a lot of products out there, a lot of them offer the same kind of potential common way of doing business. Some of the things it does empower you to do, ease of use. Microsoft SharePoint, to be specific, once it's properly installed, can be relatively intuitive and easy to use. You don't have to go through the IT department. That is the traditional barrier in not having some kind of a common platform that's not user-driven. You've got that delay and that extra step of going through the IT department to get something going. Enterprise connectivity, if it's an application or a suite of applications that everybody knows and is trained in, you're going to stimulate that connectivity around the organization. And particularly with a larger organization, you don't have to be the State Department. I've interviewed, I think some 40 different organizations around the DC area in using collaboration software, SharePoint, and other applications. And the larger you are as an enterprise, I think the more important it becomes to have some kind of a standard or a few standard IT applications to share information. There are also cost savings. You streamline server administration costs. You streamline training costs. It's the old economies of scale argument. The alternative, I would argue, and we'll take up in our discussions, is if you've got just a bewildering variety of tools, you've got all the confusion of employees trying to master different tools for different purposes, apart from the cost aspect of it. Some standard applications. I mentioned the State Department has a organization-wide internal wiki called Wikipedia that's fairly successful. We use a standard application, MediaWiki, to power that particular encyclopedia of diplomatic information available to the department. Another application we use is Movable Type. The program is called Communities at State, and it uses blogging software, not so much for chronological blogs as their do-it-yourself websites that officers from around the department and overseas can share information on a given topic, country, economic problems, foreign policy issues. So the combination of the community using the software to dialogue on various issues and the wiki software has been fairly successful. Microsoft SharePoint, another example of, again, a platform. It has a wide range of potential things it can do, but properly sort of scoped and targeted on solving real business problems. Again, it becomes a common application with common training that users can pick up and use. You said earlier about having many competing standards. Here again are some of the products I've talked about. SharePoint is potentially the most diverse. Again, there are other tools out there that can do similar functions.